Thank you for joining us. Today we have a wonderful panel of speakers and administrators and students today. We will be talking about the new high school semester electives, focusing specifically on student wellness and our ethnic studies. We'd like to thank Dr. Trista Ramirez, Dr. Brent Kuykendall, Ms. Christina Varela, Mr. Patrick Daly, and their wonderful students who are here today to share with you in our webinar. If you have any questions, please, you can use the chat, but we will be answering them at the end of our webinar, time permitting. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so I just want to thank everyone for taking some time out of their busy schedule to be here. I know myself, along with both students and staff from Palos Verdes High School and Peninsula High School, are excited to talk about these two classes that we're really passionate about. Not only are going to be required to be taken by the state here soon, but also something that we believe is going to help students support both academically and social emotionally. So I'm going to forgo the rest of my time so you can hear from the real experts, the teachers in the classroom, and some of their students.
Hi, everybody. I'm Patrick Daly. I am one of the teachers for the district teaching the wellness class, and I will be talking a little bit about how the class has gone this year, what we've been doing, and the expectations of the class. And I'm very happy to be here, and thank you for attending. The next slide.
Hi, everyone. I'm Trista Ramirez, and I'm the principal at Palos Verdes High School. And my time here, I'm going to be talking with you about some background information on why we chose to focus on wellness when we started this class. There's been some recent legislation, a Senate Bill 224, that actually states that middle schools and high school courses must include instruction on mental health and wellness, and required our state to develop a plan to expand mental health instruction in California public schools by January 1st, 2024. So as is often the case here in PVPUSD, we are actually ahead of what the state is requiring public schools to look at by putting together this new class that focuses on student wellness. We actually started looking at this class and did the development of this class a couple of years ago in supporting the district goal to provide mental health and wellness topics to all students. It was came out of Dr. Chernus's State of the District address, where we were talking about areas related to student wellness, social emotional health, and wanted to make sure that we were providing opportunities for our kids to have proactive instruction in really developing skills to make sure that they were ready to tackle this crucial time in their transition to high school. And we looked at selecting the variety of topics that are focused on this wellness class through looking at some district data, including our California Healthy Kids Survey data, where we are able to really see through our student voices, where are areas where our kids need some additional support, how are they feeling safe on campus, connected to adults on campus, how they feel as though they are handling their own stress and their ability to tackle academic classes as it relates to their progress as an individual. So that California Healthy Kids Survey data really helped guide for us what areas we wanted to focus on in this wellness class, so that we were looking at skill building for kids. And I think that that's a really important piece to realize, is that this wellness class is really intended for our kids to have some solid skills for them to be able to navigate through high school and beyond some areas that we have identified are spaces where they really may need to be able to focus on to have some personal success with their own personal mental health and wellness. So at this time, next slide. And I'm turning it back over to Patrick.
All right, so course objectives, as you see in this slide, the main objectives that students will discover is their role in the school, local, possibly even global communities. They're going to examine how healthy lifestyle choices can lead to positive mental and physical health. We've definitely gone over these things in class this semester. We also go over understanding the brain development. And we also try our best to gain some real world tools and skills that will positively affect their well-being. So it's overall wellness, very holistic approach to wellness, and then also synthesizing best practices for personal development and wellness. So it's a lot, obviously, to cover in one semester, but we do our best to collaborate as teachers and administrators to get these objectives met throughout the semester. And the next slide will go into a little bit more. Thank you. So units of study, there's 4 major units of study. And the first one we went over was identity. And one of the things that we did in class was create a classroom of trust. And that's where the importance of identity and self-expression could really be fully realized and practiced. So we had to have that trust to express our identity and be comfortable talking in a diverse group. And then also we talked about what it means to be part of a community, not only in the classroom, but at large at the high school. And then also just within Palos Verdes and even larger, just being part of the human community. We also went into mental health, obviously, and this is a huge topic, obviously, but it is a all-encompassing, again, like I said earlier, a holistic approach to mental health that we've covered in this class throughout the semester. And then we talked a little bit about the importance of healthy relationships and what that means. And it was, oh, if we go to the next slide, actually, before I continue. Perfect. The class format to get through these units of study, very interactive, very student driven. So most days, if you were in this class, you would see the class in a heartfelt discussion where everybody is participating and eager to participate and happy to participate. And again, I go back to building that sense of trust in the first couple of weeks of the class, and the students are pretty comfortable with each other. So to get that interactive classroom environment. We do have a lot of guest speakers that have come into the class. Ones that I would like to touch on are the professionals here on campus. So we have SAGE therapists, and we also have school psychologists who have come in and talked about many different aspects of these units of study for our students. And it also sheds a light on all of the professional people here on campus, resources for our students, which some students didn't even realize we had. So it's all around a great idea to bring these guest speakers in. We do our best to try to get some field trips. For my class in particular, we had some yoga field trips where we walked to the yoga room, and again, just holistic well-being. Physical health is part of that, and yoga embodies not only the physical well-being, but also mental for a meditative state as well. So we had our professional yoga teachers helping with the students as well this year. And then we went over some alternative assessments this year also, such as poster making, poster boards, things like that, to make sure the students' learning was being met. And then something else I want to say before we go on to the next slide is just, I really wish that I would have had a class like this when I was in high school. I wish my friends had a class like this in high school. I think it really would have helped with some friends of mine who did struggle with identity, did struggle with substance abuse, and struggled with opening up in general to their identity. So I just love that it is here in Palos Verdes Unified, and I sure hope it is here to stay. And as Dr. Ramirez was saying, it will be a statewide requirement. So I'm happy to hear that it will be here to stay. And the next slide, please. A little bit from students. So we would love to hear from our students at this time. And the first thing that I want to read is just from this slide from a student in my class. And they wrote, "Wellness class helps me every single day. Being able to have an open-hearted class and talk about topics that aren't touched on in other classes is very nice. It's a very comfortable space to be in. The power this class has about raising awareness for mental health and making sure everyone has a space they can talk in is awesome. I feel like this class will be very beneficial for the ongoing years, and I hope it succeeds in the school. So I really wanted to put that quote on this slide prior to introducing two of my current students who are going to be joining us on screen momentarily. Come on in.
Okay, hi. I'm Safia,
And I'm Sarah.
and we're in 12th grade. So we're gonna be looking at our phones because we just have some notes here, so don't mind if we're looking down. So I think we kind of wanted to start off with just kind of like talking about what we talk about in wellness. So one of the topics that really kind of like stuck with me was we talked a lot about consent, which I feel like is a really important topic for students to know about throughout high school, and especially for seniors like preparing for college and everything. Because I don't know, it's really sad, but we can find ourselves in situations where our consent is violated, and we need to be able to recognize that and set our own boundaries surrounding what is okay for us and what isn't, whether it concerns like our physical or emotional being. So if someone's violating you physically or emotionally, we need to be able to set those kind of boundaries. And wellness is the only class that I've taken that has helped me do that. So.
Yeah, as Safia said, the conversations regarding consent and healthy relationships and their boundaries has been one of the most prevalent things I think we both will take away from this class. We've also had guest speakers who have come in who have been really great at communicating this kind of curriculum and educating our whole class on inclusive learning in terms of sexual health and healthy relationships across the spectrum of all genders and identities. And I think we have all gotten a new but really crucial perspective on this kind of curriculum.
I think both of us also feel really strongly about like the way that we've talked about coping mechanisms in this class, just because I feel like a lot of the times, even in like seminars or assemblies that you go to in school, that those topics are kind of glossed over, and it's kind of like based on what is like not delving too far into it. But I feel like we learned about coping mechanisms in a really real and genuine way, and we got into more of like the like nitty-gritty kind of stuff. Like just today we were talking about like substance issues and stuff that goes on like on high school campuses, as sad as it is. And like we learned about what to do when somebody has alcohol poisoning, or how to just prepare yourself for these kind of situations, because these things are going to happen in high school and college. And it's incredibly important that students are prepared and have knowledge about how to prevent these situations in the first place, but also what to do if they find themselves in that kind of situation.
Yeah, so as she said, I think our whole class and future students all greatly benefit from this kind of safe space that we've created within our wellness class for not only like curriculum, but also student discussion and sharing of their own experiences, because it kind of helps you realize that there's a lot of people around campus going through the same thing, but acknowledging these events that are usually more like glossed over or censored in a school setting. Also following some of the events that have transpired this past summer, and just the attention to mental health coming out of the pandemic, and as sad as it is, how prevalent mental illness and mental health is in our daily lives. I think these conversations that are very raw and real, and hearing of shared feelings and experiences has been something that I think our whole class has benefited from, especially us, and I think everybody in the future.
Yeah, and just I think learning about mental health and how to make safe decisions for yourself and understanding the impacts of your decisions helps to make more successful kids, happier kids, just everything like that. And I think something that's really stuck with me is that we learned a lot about communication skills, which I feel like in high school can be really hard because everybody's trying to conform to this one kind of social narrative that we're supposed to fit into, and just we don't really say anything when like our boundaries are crossed or anything like that. And so we've learned communication skills and how to kind of gain a better self-esteem within ourselves. And this class has really helped me like understand myself, has helped me with my time management, just across so many different spectrums. And so I think it's been really beneficial. So thank you.
Yeah,
And now we're going to welcome one of our classmates, Max.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, sorry. Hi, I'm Max. I'm in 11th grade, and the main goal of school is to educate students and to create a learning environment that helps us succeed and thrive in the future. But an important part of preparing ourselves to like go forward in life is being able to cope with stress, depression, and trauma. And we sadly don't usually get those resources until we've had a traumatic experience or been through like a scenario where we actually need resources like that. But I believe in wellness. I believe it's such a wellness class. Sorry, I believe it's such a vital class because it helps us like overcome and deal with emotional hardships. And it helped me a lot with coping mechanisms and understanding when I need to adopt coping mechanisms. And I believe we did cover a lot of really good coping mechanisms, such as like 5-4-3-2-1, which is a breathing method, and like square breathing. And I think like overall, high school is just an incredibly demanding time in all of our lives, and we're under so much pressure to excel and succeed that we often don't prioritize ourselves, and we put like academics over our own well-beings. And so it can be beneficial to have an hour a day or a class every other day just to discuss mental health, because it's such like a taboo topic that you feel you can't really reach out until it gets like too bad sometimes. Wellness is more than just coping mechanisms, though. We've also done yoga, practiced mindfulness, worked on time management, discussed the importance of consent, and we dove into LGBTQ social challenges and consent. Overall, we discussed topics that others think are too taboo to discuss, and having an experienced educator leading us through those conversations can often make it way easier to broach them and just actually learn, instead of just thinking, oh, this doesn't feel like we should be talking about this in school. I feel more prepared for my future, and like I'm going to succeed more because I feel more emotionally able to discern what I'm feeling. So yeah, thank you. And next you're going to hear from Mark.
Hello, my name is Mark. I'm in grade 12, and everyone kind of already talked about the class and what it's about, but I just wanted to talk about how the class directly affected me. And to start off, I just wanted to say the class really helped break down different emotions that I and everyone else feels, and it helped really structure everyone to realize that everybody feels these same emotions and that they're normal and you're not alone when you're feeling these. And the class actively helped us with those emotions instead of just teaching us how to cope with it. We did activities in class, we did yoga, like everyone said, and those really helped us calm down and also get to know everyone in the class, which was a really great environment and really welcoming. Everyone in the class definitely was different, but we were all extremely respectful towards each other and everyone's opinions. And it was just a really great environment to talk and learn in. And I felt that everything I said, at least, I was comfortable speaking about and comfortable sharing, and that what happened in the room stayed in the room, and that nobody changed their or even had any judgment of everyone in the room. It was a very welcoming and safe environment. And a big part of that was our teacher, Daly. He really helped engage with us, and he also helped like relate to us. That made it feel like we weren't just talking to a teacher or a coach, but also a friend and somebody who cared about us and how we felt. And that's kind of the main sum of everything, but the class really helped. I think, in my opinion, everyone in the class really relate to these issues and see that everyone is going through similar things and that they're healthy. Thank you.
All right, and that was some of the students in the current wellness class, and I think we can move on to the next slide now.
Hi, I'm Christina Varela, and I'm going to be talking about the ethnic studies portion of the new electives. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. I'll tell you a little bit about me, the class, and most importantly, let you hear from students. This is my 31st year in education, my 27th year teaching history, and my 19th year in this district. If we could go to the next slide, please. So background on how we got to ethnic studies and how the state got to ethnic studies. We as a district actually moved on it before it became a requirement. In the summer of 2020, we had a group of alumni students who addressed our school board, and their paraphrase message was this, that you prepare us to go to some of the top universities in the country, but we don't feel adequately prepared to deal with issues of diversity and inclusion. At the same time, the state was already working on the requirement, but that fall, Dr. Chernus directed a group of us to start exploring and offering ethnic studies at our 2 high schools. Things moved very quickly from that point on. The state approved a model curriculum. We developed our curriculum based on the state's curriculum. We received our UC approval. And at the start of that same year, the state did approve the graduation requirements. So that's what you're seeing on the screen. AB 2016 is the graduation requirement. Every student in California will take ethnic studies to graduate from high school, starting with the 2025-2026 school year. Last year, we piloted the course at both schools, and we'll be doing that again this semester. Next slide, please. Here you can see the objectives for our course. To understand the role that students play in challenging the forces of inequity, working towards greater inclusivity, gaining a deeper understanding of our own identities, developing an appreciation for the complexity of diversity, recognizing intersectionality, promoting civic engagement, and developing interpersonal communication. And recently, in a conversation with one of our college and career counselors, she passed on to me that the UCs and Cal States have stated that the best way to give students a solid foundation for understanding ethnicity in America is through an ethnic studies curriculum that celebrates not just our country's ethnic diversity, but also diversity of thought. And ethnic studies has been empirically shown to improve all students' academic achievement and social relations. Our state superintendent, Tony Thurman, also said that fostering our understanding of the struggles and achievements of people of color in ethnic studies benefits all students from all different backgrounds. The next slide, please. So for our units of study, we have identity, community, Native American history, Asian American history, African American history, and Latino American history. Ethnic Studies is an interdisciplinary course which seeks to include the history of all Americans who have shaped the United States. In the first units on identity and community, we're exploring our own identities, identity as a concept, as we build a classroom community that is safe and inclusive for all students. When we go into the cultural units, we go beyond the traditional narratives that are typically taught about these groups of people. We are looking at the hardships, but we're also looking at the many contributions that these groups have made to United States history and culture, whether it be government, science, medicine, music, art, and literature, just to name a few. The next slide, please. So in terms of the class format, before we started this class, Dr. Gatanda ran focus groups with students from both high schools, and we took their feedback very seriously about what it was that they wanted from this class. So this class is very much discussion based on what the kids expressed that they wanted to do. We have a series of guest speakers who came in last year. Oftentimes they are community members who are coming in to talk with our students. We're hoping to double that number of guest speakers this year. This year, we're also going to include the field trip component. We live in the Los Angeles area, and there is a wealth of cultural opportunities waiting for us here. And then finally, alternative assessments. So it's not a traditional class in terms of tests and essays, but there is a notebook that they are working on all semester long. They each are completing an ancestor acknowledgement, which is one of the most powerful and beautiful parts of the course, where each student shared their cultural background with the rest of the class. And then they're also doing something that we call a one-pager. It's an alternative assessment twice a semester, in which there is a deep and meaningful reflection on the learning that they have been doing during the course of the class. Next slide, please. So now I think we're really to the most important part of this presentation, just like with the wellness course, and that is the student voices. Last year, we had about 40 students who took the class in the pilot year, and I'm very fortunate that some of them have agreed to join us here today. On top of the student voices, I want you to know that the district collected data anonymously from both school sites, and the data was overwhelmingly off the charts positive of what the kids had to say about the course. I also collected feedback from my students. They gave me 4 pages of anonymous feedback. And most importantly, they wanted you to know that they feel like they are learning an inclusive history and the contributions of all Americans, which is teaching them the importance of identity and empathy. I've pulled out 2 quotes from that data. Ethnic studies is my most favorite class. I have learned more in this class than any class in my 4 years of high school. This needs to be a mandatory class. It teaches kids about the world around them. It teaches them empathy. My opinion, as well as the opinions of others, were extremely represented and heard in every discussion. We all felt safe to talk about our experiences and knew it was a place without judgment where we could truly express how we felt. So at this point, I am going to turn it over to the students whose voices I think are the most important part of this. These are the voices that need to be elevated and centered. They are the ones who have participated in the class. So first up, we are going to have Mia.
Hi, my name's Mia, and I'm currently a college student, and I took ethnic studies last school year. I truly had my eyes open while taking this class. I went.
Mute yourself. Okay, sorry about that. We are having echo in here, so we're going to switch. Mia, why don't you come over to my camera, sweetheart?
Okay. I'm currently a college student and I took ethnic studies last school year. I truly had my eyes open while taking this class, and I went into it thinking that I wasn't going to learn much, but I quickly realized that I was completely wrong. I wanted to bring everything I learned outside of the classroom. The class is so engaging and I became so lost in the content that it no longer felt like I was in a class anymore. I wasn't doing it for a grade. I was doing it for my own self-fulfillment. The work is meaningful and has a purpose. I loved how the class is very conversation-based and the environment is so respectful and judgment-free. There was never a time where I felt like I couldn't ask a question or voice my opinion, which really helped me in getting comfortable in talking about things that are hard and we don't necessarily know how to express. Thank you. Hi, my name's Kayla, and I'm currently a senior, and I took the course last year. Ethnic studies opens a whole new realm to high school students to learn about themselves and the world around them. And we learn more than just history. We learn about past occasions and how they led us to our current state and how we can connect the past to present events. We need to acknowledge how different communities came to this country and contribute to our current issues and our current culture, and this class enables conversations about real topics that wouldn't be possible in a common curricular history class, and students connect to what was versus what is in our society today. And through tough conversations and a judgment-free classroom, we've become aware of our own privilege that was given to us. Without this ethnic studies class, we would not have recognized that fact. While I was in this class, I was able to learn about my own culture and heritage through our ancestor acknowledgements, which allowed students to take a deep dive into their personal history along with an insider on their peers' background as well. These projects also allow students to learn and appreciate instead of appropriate. Ethnic studies teaches us how activism and social movements in history have rectified inequality and how we can learn it to try and support social justice. This class leads to a good change in our community, where learning is the first step, and it represents diversity and different perspectives of reality in the world. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Arya and I'm a senior. As a student within the Palos Verdes School District, I believe we need to keep ethnic studies in the curriculum to help our students better understand, appreciate, and respect the other cultures and ethnicities of the United States. Granting this knowledge will be beneficial to help eliminate ignorance and increase awareness of not only other people's background, but students' backgrounds. I know that this will benefit our community because I personally have benefited from taking this course and my horizon has been expanded by a large amount. Like most other families, I didn't have exposure to other cultures. I lacked to see the other people's perspectives and identities. And ethnic studies has helped me get a better sense of acknowledging, admiring, and recognition of not only my culture, but the cultures and backgrounds of others and my peers.
Hi, I'm Michelle, and I'm a senior here. When I first signed up for this class, I assumed that it would be like what would be an easy A or just something that I would brush up on my facts about. But as like we delve deeper into the curriculum and into this class, I realized that like I didn't know as much as I thought I did. Um, we discussed a lot of hard topics in this class, especially what happened in our history here to a lot of groups. And Miss Varela did such an amazing job into making sure that the environment and that everyone felt like they had a voice and that they were comfortable enough to voice their opinions and thoughts, no matter they weren't the popular opinion. Usually people would be really like wary of discussing these hard topics in class. And at first everyone was, but as time passed, we all gained confidence from educating each other on different perspectives and having the ability to have these heavy conversations into the future. In the past, I would probably like avoid a lot of these like conversations when it would be brought up in the dinner table or something, as I would be nervous to express my opinion due to like me not knowing enough about these topics. But as I got deeper into the class, like I've gained my confidence, and having these discussions in class like really gave me, and I can say for probably the rest of the class, a lot of confidence to voice our opinions. And I can say that my confidence has grown so much since then. And ethnic studies didn't just only teach me like American history of like multiple minorities, but it built the courage for all of us to open up and share our thoughts and opinions with each other. Thank you.
Okay, so that wraps up our ethnic studies portion of the presentation. I would really like to thank all of our students from both subject matters who came this afternoon, gave up their afternoon to be here with us.
Thank you again. I mean, I think I speak for not only our viewers and our parents and our family members and community members that came to this webinar, but to our administrators as well. Like the student voice has been so powerful. Some of the words that I wrote down were things like, this class is a place that is safe, respectful, judgment-free, where students feel seen, heard, and felt supported, which is so critical, not just in any classes, but especially in classes that are with ethnic studies and wellness. So thank you again, teachers and our administrators, for supporting the work of these teachers in these classes. There are some questions in the chat. So Dr. Kuykendall, did you want to take the one about?
Yeah, no, I'll jump in. There was a question about using the term, I think safetyism is how it's said, and it's basically the concept of kind of stress, and you can use whatever term you want, even a word like bullying, and there are different layers of that, right? There are different extremes of that. And the reality is that the world is a challenging place, and stress is something that we all manage. There are clinical levels of stress, there is daily stress. And I think part of the wellness class is talking about how to manage that stress, how to identify the stress, when to ask for help, who you could go to for help. But the reality is, we have a lot of parents on this webinar, presenting here, is you can't remove something like stress out of the world. It will always be there. So what do we do as a school, as an education, in an educational setting to, like I said, provide coping mechanisms, identify ways to identify the stress, and then when needed help, give them support systems in place for that. So I agree, we don't want to put a bubble around our kids. We want them to live, learn, and grow. And that means dealing with some levels of challenges and some things that don't always go your way.
Dr. Lee, can I just chime in on one other thing that I think has been really great here at PB High with our wellness class, and kudos to Miss Varela and her kids, is they've kind of also taken this opportunity to help teach other students and have made posters to hang around campus to like give kids tips on how to handle kind of that everyday stress that sometimes we feel as students, as adults, and just kind of really sharing the things that they're learning in a way that's manageable for other kids. And I just really wanted to kind of give kudos to our kids for really wanting to make sure that they're their peers are being able to benefit from their learning too, and really differentiating between, what might be kind of typical sadness for a student or typical stress versus when maybe they need to reach out and get that kind of help that the kids were talking about from Patrick's class of, reaching out to an adult who can help them if something is at that higher level of stress or anxiety or depression. So I just wanted to give kudos to Ms. Varella's kids for those things they've been doing around our campus.
And Dr. Lee, I know I was just kind of looking through questions and comments, and thank you to everyone that chimed in. I know we had a bunch of alumni that are here. Thank you guys. We love hearing and seeing those voices about the value of these classes and your thoughts as you kind of look back at your high school experience. We love hearing that. Both Dr. Ramirez and I, we know we do a lot of things well at both our high schools, but we also are open for feedback, and we love to hear about where we can continue to support kids. And this particular class is something that we are passionate about, and we are fortunate to have Mr. Daly and Ms. Varela that are kind of running both these programs at each of their prospective sites. There were some questions, and I would love either Mr. Daly or Ms. Varela to jump in about kind of your sources and where we kind of got those sources. Could either of you, would you be comfortable just talking a little bit about where we got some of the material for the classes? I don't need a laundry list of everything, but either one of those, if either of you wouldn't mind commenting.
Sure. In particular with ethnic studies, we spent an entire summer working and preparing that curriculum. The state has given us a model curriculum, and in it is just resource after resource after resource after resource. And so the experts have already weighed in on a lot of this material, but ultimately the teacher that I worked with that summer, we were both history teachers. So we're both very familiar with working with primary source documents. It is the way that I prefer to teach history. And in terms of reading primary source documents, what you're teaching the students to do essentially is to be historians, and for them to read the document and to learn how to analyze a document and make their own judgments. That's what the true work of a historian is. You don't read a secondary source that tells you what to believe about a subject. You read the documents, you make your own decision. And that's how we approached it with ethnic studies.
Thank you, Ms. Varela. Mr. Daly, do you want to talk anything about wellness, just in regards to where you got some of your material?
I mean, to be honest with you, like Ms. Varela was saying, a couple of years ago, there was a committee of district people and teachers creating these two courses, right, or helping create the curriculum. And I was part of that ethnic studies group. And there was a whole group on wellness too that was compiling all of these resources. And I just reaped the benefits of that committee, to be honest with you. And the class was taught last year by a different teacher, and I went with the resources that were already available to me.
Awesome, thank you. I think the short answer is, you guys did a good job, and a group of teachers, right? This was not someone's pet project. This was a group of teachers from across our district putting these materials together that are age appropriate, that are avoid bias, but are able to allow students to have an insightful discussion, which is an art form. The reality is, some of these topics can be difficult to talk about. But in particular, we have two teachers here, and we mentioned a previous teacher that kind of worked on this program, and we're passionate about making sure people saw perspectives on all sides, not one side or another, it's all sides. So I appreciate, thank you guys for answering that question. I just didn't want to put words in your mouth, so I appreciate you taking that one.
Okay, and there's a question about how often these courses are offered. At this moment in time, it is offered only once a year. So one semester of wellness at both PV High and Peninsula, and one semester of ethnic studies. But as we shared in the presentation, by 25-26, it is going to be a requirement for all of our high school students to take these courses. So. And so with that, thank you all for attending today. It is a Thursday evening. The holidays are just around the corner. So we wish you a healthy, safe evening and a holiday season. So thank you so much for joining us. Goodbye.